How can you tell if a person is a douchebag? Born to Douches said. If they're the never in the wrong kind of person. I don't mean someone that has an inability to admit they're incorrect, which is also douchy, but the kind of person, even when caught dead to rights, will find a way to claim no wrongdoing. I once caught a college roommate going through a care package my mother had sent me, happily eating the baked goods, perusing the clothing she'd sent, and I was like, dude. What the fuck? And he goes, I thought you said I could have some. I'd received the package a day earlier, when he wasn't even around, and had put it under my bed while still sealed. Yeah, he thought that I thought you said I could have some shit would work. He even told me to chill the fuck out when I got righteously angry. So glad that the jackass flunked out in the first semester. Sabman138 said. The chill the fuck out response is 10x more infuriating than the actual crime. That there takes some restraint. Sabman138 said. Narcissism. You can't always blame it on that though. Sometimes people just can't grow the fuck up. Part of growing up is learning to accept your mistakes and make proper concessions and amends to others. It's destructive and childish behavior that even alcoholics have to address in one of their steps. But at least they have an excuse for that behavior and work to correct it. Selfish assholes don't. Douchebag said. There's some psychology on the subject, but the conclusions are unlikely to be anything that will make you feel better. The suspicion is apologizing is a bad social strategy if you have any intention of continuing what you were doing, and is marginal even if you didn't. Apologizing works for children primarily because they don't have control of the situation and their options boil down to submitting to an adult or submitting to an adult after you have made them angry. By contrast, adults have the option of forcing the other party to choose between escalating things, which may turn the tables and make the other party appear to be the asshole depending on the situation and if they overreact, or dropping the matter entirely. That's not a great set of options, but the key thing is that as it turns out apologies don't work that great either. Most of them are ineffectual for one of the following reasons. The offense is so minor as to make an apology unnecessary. Apologies in those situations can be annoying or make you come across as manipulative or lacking confidence. Crucially, apologies can appear this way because other people have given apologies a bad reputation. For apologies to work, you apparently need to have developed a real reputation for using them sparingly and not being a fuck-up asshole. Douchebag said. The offense was big enough that ultimately the person will still resent you even after the apology. These apologies can still be valuable, but only because they may cause the matter to be settled in the eyes of any third parties involved. But in the absence of that, there isn't much benefit over doubling down and continuing to be an asshole. Incidentally, this is all part of why politicians don't apologize unless shit has really and truly gone horribly wrong. There just isn't much value in it unless it really is backed up by a surrender. Xylosoxidin said. The narcissist's prayer that didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. Grace Holly Moon said. They decide whether or not a shitty comment they made was just a joke based on people's reaction. Edit. Some people don't really seem to get what I mean. I'm mainly talking about people who joke about things like Hitler was right, or when they tell me to kill myself for being trans, then pass it off as bro, I was just joking. Can't you take a fucking joke? Van King Halen said. I met one of these a couple weeks ago on a Friday night. He was visiting out of town from a military-based expedition, to which I wholeheartedly can respect. I guess he took this as an invite to make the entire night about him or something, because it became completely impossible to hold a conversation with the dude. There were 9 of us, but if anyone even made the slightest interjection to contribute to the conversation, he seemed to make it a point to talk over them and keep going with whatever dumbass bullshit he had been spewing all night. We mostly gave him the time of day, sitting impatiently listening to his antics, but it seemed like we were pulling away from him in groups of 2s or 3s the whole night through just to have some one-on-one time and genuinely converse with each other. He single-handedly ruined the whole night for everyone else because of his absurd amount of pride. Snikwakash said. I walk with a cane BC of nerve damage in my legs. Anne was walking to my car, and tripped and fell on the ground. Hurt myself pretty good on the fall. But as I was falling, me and this soldier locked eyes as I'm heading face first to the pavement. I hit the ground hard and he just stepped over me, and went on like I wasn't there in need of help. I live in the US if anyone was wondering. I consider that to be a doucher move, so he will forever be a douchebag in my mind. Jibboy said I was walking down a narrow road in my small town here in Japan. This frail, thin very old lady was walking down the road and just suddenly folded backwards and kind of sat laid down. Her legs were folded back like she was a frog. The two taxi drivers at the taxi stand just glanced over at her, then went back to talking. I ran up to her as she was trying to get up, which seemed impossible for her in that position, and hoisted her up by the armpits, and set her on her feet. She said thanks and that she was fine, and continued her slow shuffle down the road. I still don't know why those taxi drivers regarded her as a twig that fell out of a tree. Madame Guacamole said, when I was a grad student, I taught undergrad classes. I was just a baby teacher, but I'd like to think this is when I found my footing. A freshman brought his acoustic guitar to class and said he was going to play some John Mayer. I said, deadpan, if you do that I will give you an F. I joke around a lot as a teacher, so everyone laughed. I never would have done that, and I would rightly have been reported if I had, but he never brought that damn guitar back. Philogist said, I admittedly have a bad habit of doing this from time to time. I work in medicine, so we use Molly female a lot, and I've caught it carrying over into my social life a few times. I've been working hard to correct it. I don't think it makes me a douchebag or anything, but I do get where you are coming from, BC. Even when I catch myself using female outside of work, I don't like the way it sounds. A Cylinder said, honestly, only surefire way is hardship. Whether it's edgy tats or weird bumper stickers. People are always changing. Guy that got those tats 5 years ago is not the same person before you. Some assholes are really good at hiding it. Really, you want to know how good person is? Witness them in hardship. Friend needs someone to pick them up late because car broke down. Needs a lone place to crash, someone to talk to, whatever. Biggest douches are not those with edgy tattoos and refuse to be PC or have shitty political affiliations. It's those that bail on friends. Of course, yes, there is always limits and you can only do what you can do. But literally seen people refuse to get friends like a block away from house who had car trouble and it was weekend, so no work excuses, and it was still before 10 p.m. no kids, and they offered to fill his tank for ride. He was a massive chode. Splackid said, don't get me wrong, I love dogs. But I often go over to our dog free to read about some of the narcissistic dog owners who do some crazy shit over their dogs or act insanely entitled when they take their dogs everywhere and can't accept that there could ever be a place or situation where having a canine is inappropriate. But one of the most common traits of asshole dog owners is where they'll actively encourage their dogs to kill cats or generally wish death upon all cats, not take responsibility when their pets kill the pet or livestock of another, especially cats. Or just generally freak out whenever someone actually dare imply that they care about their cat on the same level that this type of person loves their dog. Like I said, I like dogs and am a dog owner, but I also love cats, and there are some absolutely nutty dog owners out there from reading through that sub. This one headbanger said, let's see if they rev their engine at locations where it shouldn't be revved. Examples include in neighborhoods, by schools, at red lights. If it's a normal day and you and another random car fly by racing each other on the streets during the middle of the day, there's tracks for a reason. Go there and race on fairgrounds, or don't race at all. If you brag about physical feats and or make every conversation about how much stronger, faster, smarter, etc. you are than somebody else of everybody else in the room. For example, hey John, can I borrow your car for? Yeah, I pumped about 250 at the gym, working. Why weigh up to 260 bicep curls and kisses your bicep. Amaryllis SMLFLWR said, honestly, for a lot of people their tell is the way they carry themselves and the glint in their eye. There are some people where you can just look at them and see the douchebaggery leaking from their pores. They also tend to be uneducated, poorly educated and ignorant, but they speak and act as if they're part of the top 1% of intellectuals. Note, not everyone who doesn't have a higher education falls into this category. People can be smart and not have gotten anything higher than a high school diploma. I'm talking about the people who don't have the formal education, and who have never tried to educate themselves about different topics independently. They're not well written and they bask in their ignorance because it means they don't have to think for or develop themselves and their worldviews. put themselves before anything and anyone. Say things like it's just my opinion and I have the right to free speech when saying that certain humans shouldn't have rights or freedoms. Say things like, well, I didn't see experience so it's not real. Sexism exists even if you have had the privilege of not experiencing it. Racism exists even if you've never experienced. Homophobia and bigotry and xenophobia and anti-Semitism and all the other horrible things people think about each other exist, even if you've never personally experienced it. Say that the Holocaust was a hoax. Hill in the distance said. Someone whose fun stories are always about how someone was intimidated by them. Like, that's happened to me, and I don't tell those stories for two reasons. Either, it was when I was trying to intimidate someone, and then it's just tasteless bragging. In some cases, it turned out to have been the wrong thing to do, in which case, it's just a story of me being an idiot. Or it was when I didn't try, and it just felt alienating and weird and I felt bad for making someone's day worse. None of those make for fun stories. Hell, I'm a bit of a douchebag myself, but even I know better than to just lay it out like that. I just fuck up sometimes and fail to consider other people's situation because I'm kinda dense and a bit selfish. Contemplative Potato said. Usually their demeanor. I had a friend who admittedly was more of a douchebag than I'd hoped he was years ago. We kinda grew up together and had the same friends, and ended up working together. He was cool sometimes, but often was a lot to handle. Pretty notable signs your friend may be a douchebag. Would always wear a smug grin when you would tell them something you didn't think they'd know or might find interesting. Would chuckle, followed by a well, actually, followed by a weird pause, then provides either his own version of info you just told him, or info that seems suspiciously off, and would do so in a condescending manner, and was sometimes wrong or misinterpreted. Walked around puffing his chest out like some awkward peacock. Would always do cringe shit to seem intimidating, but was actually a pussy. Would constantly scowl, what? This is just my face. Would flick the lights across his knuckles, just so people know not to fuck with me. Would brag about doing weightlifting back in high school, despite being bloated and overweight due to binging coke for years straight and not having worked out since HS. Would always scoff at whatever music you were listening to, and would proceed to break into a fun facts tirade about whatever group it was. Contemplative Potato said. Would then proceed to start playing some old jazz, blues, rockabilly, or other type of music at least 40-50 years old, claiming nobody knew about them, when in reality it was just shit he heard in Fallout Envy and decided he'd download their discography. Would always throw backhanded compliments that everyone but him noticed. Always had some story or experience that one-upped whatever story or experience you just shared, whether it be right away or a day later. Never understood why people stopped hanging around him. We're just not cut from the same cloth, I guess. Constantly had to talk. Constantly. We worked together for 3 years, and on days where I just wasn't in a talking mood and just wanted to work quietly and listen to my music, this guy would talk about nothing. But most frustratingly, he would often just talk about himself or brag about whatever it was he did this week, or oftentimes, about what sounded like complete BS. At some point he fucked up a huge expensive aluminum print order at the shop we worked at, and pulled one of those "I'll quit before they can fire me" moves. My bosses were already planning to fire him after learning he did next to no work during their week-long business trip to Spain, Germany, and was just sitting in the corner of the shop texting on his phone the entire week while I stayed late most days pushing orders to completion. There was a lot of other things leading up to that, but this was just the final straw for everyone. It was a bummer, but also a huge relief. Maglasayachi 13 said. If all they interact with is other terrible people, then there is no hope for them. Toxic people suck, but it's better meet problems head on. It's like leaving a country because it's toxic. You can try to cut out all toxicity, but it's more honorable to try to make whatever it is less toxic. Is it even possible to run from your problems? 10 years ago I would have said yes. Who am I kidding? I'm still running, but I know I shouldn't. I'm just smart enough to know I'm stupid. Mort Lightstone said. For a second, I thought I was in our jokes and was wondering where the punchline was. Anyway, a kind of douchebag I don't like is people that make everything about them. I've met plenty of people like this. Some aren't even that bad and may even be trying to be better people, but in the end, Everything is about them. They act like the whole world revolves around them, and they only talk about themselves. Naturally, there is a little bit of this in everybody, but in most people, it's balanced. In a douchebag it isn't. It straight up is only ever about them. It's easy for people like this to be assholes, but even when they aren't, they're fucking boring and terrible to talk to. Douchebag said. Firefighters, EMTs, nurses, doctors, teachers. All real heroes. It's rare to find a good cop. I say that because I consider all the cops that don't report the dirty shit they see happen or help cover up dirty shit are just as bad as the cops doing the dirt. It's disturbing to see how brazen a gang members are, even on camera. Wonder what kind of stuff they would do without a camera on them. Get rid of qualified immunity and stop letting cops investigate cops and things would change real fast, and for the better. Cyrano Nose said. My coworker chuckles at the end of every observation he makes in a patronizing I'm so clever and other people aren't as smart as me kind of way. I've never heard him once laugh at anything anyone else has ever said. He told us in all seriousness that he never loses arguments on the internet because he uses the Socrates method of debate, and if that's not enough, oh there's so much more. He spends a portion of every shift bragging about how well his stocks are doing almost every day to a room full of people making $17.00 an hour, and thought it a good idea to try arguing that Dan Marino is a better quarterback than Tom Brady to a room in the heart of New England. House Stare said. When they feel compelled to tell everyone that they don't like something that is popular. For example, I was with a mixed group of friends a few weekends ago and Jurassic Park was on TV, so naturally we all ended up sitting down and watching it. One of the guys decided he really needed to let everyone know that he thinks Steven Spielberg is overrated. Like he would walk up and fucking whisper to you, dude, Spielberg is so overrated, and keep doing it to each person until he got a response. Finally I was like, dude, no one fucking cares, stop being annoying, which he replied to with haha, I was just trying to annoy you. Guess it worked, haha. Pankakesigu said. They can't take responsibility for anything in their life. My last roommate was going to have a gastric sleeve surgery. Her dietitian told her to keep track of what she ate in a journal and that she needed to make changes to her diet to prepare for the surgery, because afterwards, she would have to have a much different diet just because her stomach would not be able to handle the same food she ate before. She had a televisit with her dietitian in the living room, no headphones, max volume. In the call, she stated that she was having trouble keeping track of what she ate because I was cooking less. I had told her a month prior that I would be starting a class 2 nights a week and would not be able to cook on those nights, so they would become leftover nights. I was cooking the other 5 nights a week and made sure to cook extra large meals the days before I had my class so that there were plenty of leftovers. This bitch would wake up 5 minutes before she had to leave, get McDonald's for breakfast, eat out for lunch, and then half the time she would turn her nose up at what I was making and would order something through DoorDash for dinner. She would not contribute to groceries, or if she did go to the store at all, it was to get chips and soda and sweets and shit junk food. And yet, I was the problem and the reason she couldn't feed herself properly. Pankakesigu said. For some dumbass reason, her dietitian accepted her excuses of never being able to have a food journal at her visits, and scheduled her for surgery. All leading up to her surgery, she would get takeout every day because she wouldn't be able to eat it after the surgery. Until 2 weeks before the surgery date, when she suddenly had to change to a liquid protein shake diet to prepare her stomach. After the surgery, she was on a liquid diet for a few weeks, then finally got cleared to eat mushy food. She went to fucking Penn Station and made herself sick by eating fast food. She got this surgery because she had to lose weight for her bottom surgery and couldn't be bothered to change her food habits or do anything to exercise. She would come home from work and sit in her version of the dead chair until she went to bed every single day. The gastric sleeve surgery was the fastest way to lose weight without her having to do anything, so she went with it, even though it's a highly invasive surgery that would impact the rest of her life. I recently moved across the country and I can honestly say my life is better without her in it. Finesser said. Willing to treat others worse because of some random perceived moral inferiority. I know so many people that thought they were nice, but were absolutely ready to become total douchebags because they thought someone else deserved it, like somebody wearing a MAGA hat, liking an artist, being non-vegan, etc. There's obviously reasons to be an asshole, but most of them are related to personal slights, not someone saying I like to listen to artist X in a group discussion. It's always the extremely self-righteous, too. Like they'll proudly proclaim they're doing a good thing by being assholes, and that it's justified because the other person is clearly a dick. Maybe I'm just more tolerant about it, but there's been a massive increase of people that are chomping at the bit to let anger spew, for literally any minor reason. Pale 37 said, the shopping cart test. To return the shopping cart is an easy, convenient task and one which we all recognize as the correct, appropriate thing to do. To return the shopping cart is objectively right. There are no situations other than dire emergencies in which a person is not able to return their cart. Simultaneously, it is not illegal to abandon your shopping cart. Therefore, the shopping cart presents itself as the apex example of whether a person will do what is right without being forced to do it. Extremifier said, when people say they have depression and openly just announce it as someone that has suffered from depression, this is the fakest personality and the biggest douche thing to do. People make it up to be cool or edgy because they have it, but if you were genuine, you wouldn't be announcing it like it's a quirk and being happy about it, because that's literally the opposite of what depression is. If you were like this, then fuck you, find your own personality. Andarojigor said, if they drove their father's El Camino while we all took the bus, or if they look so cool in steel point shoes, and when they've got so much Ed Hardy it must be hard for them to choose. They're their own biggest fan, and the only one they've got. They peel out in the parking lot of the high school where they graduated 6 years ago. Their style is sick, we know cause they went shirtless in their profile pic. They took it off while at a party to show their tattoos, at the beer pong table where they never lose. There's a 9 in 10 chance they've got a tribal tattoo. Girl says damn that boy can dance, now he's a rival. They hit the beach but never swim, wearing jeans in the gym. Into every club they go it's for Loco, for Loco. Take a protein shake with a Jaeger bomb shot, and tell their best friend Blake you think his mother is hot. Drinking Jose all day, partying here, they drink mad beers. That's when you have to say dude, I'm not your bro. Morrigan66 said, they brag about all the fights they've been in and they won most if not all of them. They are the hero in every story they tell. They love talking about themselves and will go on about how awesome they are for hours. They are selfish and feel entitled to your things or other things that they didn't work for. They don't have empathy. They can't have a regular disagreement. It always turns into a fight that is never their fault. Nothing is ever their fault. They don't apologize for anything they do unless it's to get something they want out of the situation. They use people to get what they want and don't feel bad about it. People are just a means to an end to them. I can go on and on. I have dated lots of douchebags. Josiah Papaya said, I'm an expert at this, actually. I have an excellent nose for assholes, which has actually made me super unpopular, because I'll generally know within a few minutes meeting someone, and if I know they are sketch I turn off completely. Some huge red flags: people who chew gum with their mouths open. Run. I've never met a person in my life who chews with their mouth open and is also not a complete dickhead. People who are forcefully helpful. If someone is offering to help you with things, it is not out of the goodness of their hearts. This is different than people being genuinely helpful and offering when you need it. I'm talking about that person who offers to show you around the city when you move in, shows up to offer help when you are working on your car or chopping wood or watching kids. They are sussing out how easy to manipulate you are. Jaywalkers. It's okay to run across the street from time to time if you have somewhere to be. But people who jaywalk are often folks who believe they are above the rules. Josiah Papaya said, anyone who is demanding, rude, or not very understanding of customer service workers, and this includes folks who yell at telemarketers. I'm a bartender waiter now, so kind of biased, but I would never fuck, or be friends with people who don't tip, complain about service, or yell at customer service people about their bills. You can be making 6 figures, and if you talk down to someone in the service industry, that is the smallest dick energy ever. You drive a Mercedes. I like the vintages and the SL something something model, but I have a joke of my own which goes something like, if you have a Mercedes you have the right of way. I don't even get mad when someone cuts me off or is driving like a toddler if they're sitting in a mark, because they've paid for the right of way and it is what it is. KCH 1986 said, I used to work for a place where we would schedule repairs for certain customers. While looking for a new job, I saw a company posted a job that used to call into where I worked for repairs and always talk to us like we were assholes for not being able to help him immediately, and was a complete POS. All I could think was how great of a job it would be to work for him if he treated people that don't work for him like crap. I would rather work anywhere else instead of working for or with this guy. No wonder you can't find or keep employees around.